Welcome to a wonderful new episode. In today's episode, we'll talk about the importance of intuitive dance. But before, just like in any other episode, I invite you to close your eyes to center, to open up the sacred space. Let's take a deep inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth, let it go. And again, deep inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth, let it go. Good. Last time, take a deep inhale through the nose, hold the breath, and set up your intentions for this transmission. May you receive what you're meant to receive. May a light bulb go on in your system. So then a remembrance is coming back to this present moment. Whenever you're ready, exhale fully. Beautiful. Welcome, everybody. There's something so beautiful coming through with the light language. So we'll see how this episode and this transmission will go through. Perhaps it will be a mixture of both. What a gift. What a gift. I invite you to open up the heart space and listen through the heart. And just rather than treating this as like a podcast episode, perhaps seeing this as a beautiful transmission of divine light and love. Always a remembrance to yourself and always coming back to yourself every single moment of your life whenever you feel that you are out of your balance state. So intuitive dance, and the importance of doing this. So what is coming through right now is drumming. If you have ever been in a ceremony, or not just in a ceremony, but like listening to drums, there's a rhythm that happens, and a specific rhythm that happens for a specific amount of time for you to go into a trance-like state. And it's very simple because it's repetitive. It's repetitive. And of course, the drums connect with the heart of the universe and the earth, and therefore our heart. And so then it helps us be in tune with all these energies and centeredness and love and connectivity. So then we're out of the mind. We're out of the mind and more into the state of being, more in presence. And as we do that, then your whole body relaxes. And again, the mind is not present because the mind is occupied by the sounds that you're listening of a drum, for example. And in that moment, you can let your system do what it needs to do in order to access deeper healing or more remembrance, or even just literally being. And at times there is this condition, and I for sure had this condition back in the day, that I had to know how to specifically move my body in order to get into a trance-like state. See, this is where the mind gets into the way. It's like, okay, so how do I do this, right? It's not a question of how, but it's just a question of being and allowing the energies to come through. So whenever we are in that state, again, we access the field. What do I mean by that? We access totality. You access your whole being. And because you're in that present state, then again, like nothing is wrong. And you can absolutely feel your being and also acknowledge your being and welcome your being. So imagine when somebody looks at you and it's just in their eyes, they're just pouring divine love. I'll give you an example. When I was in Kathmandu years ago, it was 2017, I met this enlightened master. And I remember the moment that I saw him, I just felt that everything in his being poured unconditional love, even in his eyes. I'm sure that you have been aware that when somebody's angry or sad or even joyful, you can see it in their eyes. His eyes just pour unconditional love. And I had never seen that I can remember at that point in my life. And so his state of being, it was just so present with himself, and just beyond himself. You remember at those moments that you're not just this, and there is so much magnificent to you, and so much totality, and so much greatness, that anything can come through. Whatever is needed for you and for others comes through in the state of being. And that's what happened with me in a session with him, because it was all being translated. And at the moment that we were meditating, I remember specifically that he talked about me and my parents. And so I had those two sides, like the brain side being like, how in the world do you know this? It's only me and my parents that know this. My brother doesn't even know this. And the other side, the present side, that literally the state of being was like, of course, you know this. How could I challenge you? You see what I mean? There's this two sides, right? And of course, I went to that. And I'm sure I've said this before in a podcast or even in social media. I don't even remember what Babaji said, but I remember exactly what was happening in me. And so this is what I mean, that state of being, that's just like the poor unconditional love of us that we are comes through that state of being. And the state of being happens when we get out of our own way, out of the mind, questioning, how do we do this? The how question, into just surrendering into that moment, whether you are feeling crappy or not. And this is what intuitive dance also accesses. And it gets into the state by the music, right? And it doesn't necessarily need to be a drum. It can actually be some kind of sounds. It could be clapping. That it just is repetitive, the same pattern. And then you are there present with the sound. And again, present with the sound. So the mind has something to actually have like this tunnel vision to. And then you can allow yourself to be. And in that state of letting go of the mind in a way and coming into your heart space, then the body relaxes. Because again, the mind is now like, hey, we need to do this. So how do we do this? Okay, I'm going to be in this space and I'm going to let the music and the sounds and the rhythm take me, right? And it's not really about like, okay, do I have to do and move right away? No, you can just stay in stillness. You can even just lay down, and just be there. Okay, I'm feeling the music, and a little by little, just going with the rhythm, right? And in this, if you're looking at the video, it's actually like my body just doing this. My mind is not really getting into the way, like, how do I do this, right? It's just the feeling, the sensation. It's super similar whenever you listen to your favorite song and you can't just be still. You're like, I have to move, I have to get up and I have to dance, right? So that is intuitively, you feel it within you. There's like, oh shoot, I really have to get up. If I stay here, I'm going against my intuition. It does not feel very good. And so you stand up and you begin to move and to dance, right? So you're not thinking about how in the world do I move? You're thinking about, this is so joyful and I love this and I'm just going to move and let my body do its thing, right? So that also is intuitive dance, right? So it's not necessarily in a ceremony stance like, but absolutely it can be super helpful and healful too. Is that a word? As I said before, English is my third language. So sometimes I tend to just invent these words and maybe they are already invented. But going back into that, so it's not just in a ceremony stance like, but it is very powerful because you put intentions in a circle, in a sacred space. That doesn't mean that you cannot do your own sacred space, right? So you can make it a ceremony if you want to make a ceremony, and not necessarily like lighting up all these candles and incense and whatever it is, right? Just having that intention. Remember, intention is your access point to anything in your life. Even when you wake up in the morning, okay, my intention for today is to relax and have fun, for example, right? And so you just put it out there so the universe totally supports that intention. It's very similar with the dance. And so I want to give you these examples so that you know that it's not something so difficult to access, because you access so much healing through intuitive dance. And so if for you it's so challenging to really put it into perspective about the drumming and in a circle and in a sacred space and all those kinds of like, what we call spiritual things, right? Just think about like if you go to festivals, if you go to raves, or if you're just literally listening to a song by yourself or with friends somewhere, and you're like, I just got to move, like you feel it within yourself and your body just moving. And then you follow that. That is intuitive dance, because again, you're present with your body, you're present with your intuition. And like, it doesn't even matter how you move, right? Whenever you love this song and you're so joyful, because you are in the present moment. And in that present moment, you access so much healing, even if you have no idea that through dance, you're actually accessing healing, but you being present with yourself, but you moving without really thinking, okay, do I have to move this way, or this foot moves this way, or my arm moves this way? You're just being, and your body's just dancing and moving all this energy. You're really already accessing a healing point in yourself, right? There really is a reason why when you are so in the moment, your body just moves in a different way. And maybe the arms move, or maybe the legs move, or maybe both moves, and you shake your head and whatever. What the body is doing at that particular moment in time is shaking the energies. If for one moment when you're dancing, you're just moving more your shoulders and your arms and maybe your head, you're taking care from the heart space all the way up. So the upper chakras, the upper triangle. So, opening up the space of unconditional love, opening up the truth that you literally get to speak and experience to, and so many of the things up. And the same thing with the legs. If it's more of a leg movement, it's more of the lower chakras, the lower triangle. So it's so beautiful that the body knows exactly what to do when we get out of the way, when you get out of the way. It's just literally what I call magic. Magic just happens. And so these moments, whenever you feel in that song and you so deeply, it's those moments that the body is asking you for healing. That is asking you to surrender. Can we please move? Can we please shake it out? And let me just do a parenthesis. Sometimes you just feel like you just got to shake things out, right? That's also like a way of intuitive movement. Not necessarily dance, but movement, because the body's sending you a signal saying like, I need to shake the shit out. Can you please do this for me? Can we work together in unison? So then we're back into our own energies and our centeredness. So powerful, super duper powerful. So now this is, again, a perspective, if it's a little bit challenging for you to understand more intuitive dance in a sacred site, in a sacred circle. And I don't really see much of the difference besides, opening up sacred space and the collective intention. So if you set up your own sacred space in your own kind of way, and it doesn't need to take 50,000 minutes, you guys. It's as simple as centering through the breath. And it's as simple as like calling up for your protection, connecting with the earth, the heavens, whatever it is you connect with, and setting up the intention, is super simple. It doesn't have to, you can even take a minute, and then you move to whatever song is being played for. Okay, and so there is a difference in a sacred space. And the difference is, I will take back a little bit what I said before. I said there's not much of a difference, but there really is, because it's collectively. It's not just one person with one intention, but it's so many people with so many intentions and a collective intention that a vortex of energy actually appears and gets created by that loving intention of everybody there that is opening up sacred space. Because of course you can do one thing by yourself and you can reach reach however you want to reach by yourself. It can be challenging, but it's much easier to elevate ourselves in community, in circle, in a very beautiful sacred space. So the sacred space, it's also like a bigger entrance of your own intuitive being, and at the same time of healing, because everybody in that space, knows that they will love for you to be more intuitive. They will love for you to remember more who you are. They will love for you to be so empowered. And this is why we gather in community. So beautiful, so beautiful. And so here goes, the sacred space. And then maybe there'll be a drumming, And it's so beautiful. If you have ever been in a sacred space of movement and circle, this could be like 5 rhythms, could be sacred dance or ecstatic dance, right? Well, there's a difference with ecstatic dance from my experience anyways. But in the other ones, I've seen that there's a sacred space that gets opened up. There's an intention here, and we're all collectively witnessing each other. And so in some of them, the music just starts to play, right? And then you begin to move. There's like different kind of movements that you do. And just like the same rhythm of, for example, the drum, right? You can do the same movements repetitively to help you access the trance-like state, the same pattern with the feet. Because then again, it's sending signals into the mind space like, oh, okay, so we're here. This is what we're doing, right? So powerful, the same movements. And I invite you to do so too, to try it out, right? Because at times you can hear all these things, but it's about your own experience. When you really experience it, then, it's truth for you, right? It's not just something that you heard by friends or sisters, brothers, etc., but it's you experience it, so it becomes your truth. And so here, with the movement or with the rhythm, then the body begins to do that. Just like when you love that other song, and you just let your body do whatever it wanted to do, it's very similar. And the body does that, and the more that you let it go through, right? This is one of the reasons why I believe that this kind of sacred spaces go longer than just one song. It's because it helps you access deeper and deeper and deeper this intuitive dance and this trance-like state. And the more that you let it get out of the way, the more that the mind gets occupied in the music or in the movements, if you're just doing the same pattern with the feet, the more that you completely get out of the way, the more that your personal consciousness becomes the witness, the seer of what's happening, and the surrendering of everything else around you, and the deep trust and unconditional love, again, for yourself, like knowing this is so good for me. And then in that moment, again, you access that field that is not separate from you. And then you can pinpoint again, okay, like what is it that I need? And I'm talking about like the higher consciousness, because then the personal consciousness is just witnessing, but the consciousness itself knows exactly what you need. And then it goes like, okay, this is what you need. And that is when all these emotions rise up, like it could be like this emotions of like fear, of anger, frustration, or even bliss, And in those moments, it's like those energies that have been so stuck within your system begin to come up to the surface to be released. And through the movements, and maybe through sounds too, or the emotions or tears, that literally just alchemize. You alchemize those energies. So they're no longer stuck within yourself. So that there's more movement in your energetic bodies. There's more flow. You become like the water, and this is like the beautiful thing about trance-like state in intuitive dance. Because intuitive dance, it really allows you to access a trance-like state. Intuitive dance is like when you feel the body's like, I need to move this way. So let me just move this way. And then you're just like, all right, I'm going to let you move how you want to move. And then you get out of the way. And then a trance-like state happens, right? And what does that even mean? When you are the witness, like the personal consciousness is the witness. You're not thinking of like, how do I do this? How do I access this? You're just being. Pure consciousness is just present for you. And then you see that in you. And that is when amazing healing happens. When all these things that have been bottled up within you, no, it's like, whoa, here we go. We have these exit points and we can do this. And then he or she is moving. And then we can actually allow the energies to move and alchemize. And then more comes into you, right? So as you're making space, you're also receiving, right? So it's like this cycle that happens, right? So the energies get out of you in a way as they're alchemized, and then some other beautiful energies that resonate more with you vibrationally comes into your system. Oh, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And it's all about you, really, you know? And whenever you are in a sacred space with others, whatever is happening personally with the other people around you also does have an impact in you. If somebody is maybe even deeper into that trance-like state by intuitive dance, then, you know, it serves like this vortex of energy that begins to tell the rest of them, saying like, you are safe. You are safe to go deeper into your journey. And so it's like a ripple effect. Then the people around them begin to enter into a deeper state until the whole room are just so deep into their own experience that it's just like, it becomes like this really amazing transformational like space. And afterwards, it's so refreshing, you know? At the beginning or throughout the journey, it might feel a little challenging, right? I mean, and it's normal when we do this kind of thing. It's normal to feel those emotions that are so deep and just so like yikes at times. But, and also through those yucky moments and sensations, you access that pure divinity and love. And afterwards, it's like, thank you. Thank you, body, for that. Thanking yourself for that. Thanking your community for that. And it's a rebirth process. That's literally what it is, a rebirth process. And why would you want to stay away from that? It's a question for you. I don't want to stay away from that. I know how much healing I have access and how much presence too by doing those kind of practices. And it's something that I do like constantly, you know, perhaps not daily. I do shake and I let my body do its movements. If you were seeing me just like moving around, so this is just my body doing it. I'm not really thinking like, all right, I got to move my shoulders. I got to move my head. I just let the energies do their thing. And it doesn't even matter where I am, honestly. Even if you have seen my live videos or some videos that I post on social media, you know, at times, literally my neck is cracking all the time. And I don't stop it because that is like the mind, you know, getting on the way saying like, oh, that looks a little weird. I'm not going to do that. But I deeply trust my system and the energies that pass through. And I know that I don't know everything, but I also know that consciousness does know what I need at any moment in time. So I surrender to that. And I invite you to do the same thing, to totally surrender, totally surrender. So down below, I have a link to one of my playlists. Feel free to open up your sacred space. Feel free to maybe invite your sisters or your brothers, you know, however you feel in a community like space, or maybe just another friend and say like, hey, let's see what happens, right? And this is a little different because I do guide into different processes as you're moving, but just have your intentions, open up your sacred space. And again, it doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes we're so good at complicating things. Sacred space, it could be as easily as sitting together, you know, right in front of each other if it's two people, and just breathing, taking a deep inhale and exhale like we do at the beginning of the transmission, and just calling upon your angels, connecting with the earth, connecting with higher realms, whatever feels intuitively for you, and then setting up your intentions for it. And I also love to set up a collective intention for all of us. And I'm not talking about just all of us that are here present as humans, but the ones that are coming, the ones that have come, like the whole field, because we're not separate from that. And from that, you know, play the music and as I said, let magic come through. And afterwards, you know, through the very last songs, just lay down and rest, because that's also when a lot of healing happens after moving so much energy, and then you rest, like a shavasana like state, right? This is one of the reasons why shavasana is so important in a yogasana practice, because everything that has been moved throughout the whole practice gets to be integrated in you through stillness. So yeah, and also share this episode with anybody that you know will benefit from it. We're in all this together, and the more that we gather in community, the more that we share, the more that we can feel connected and not alone. Deep blessings, so much love, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.